Hey, everybody, welcome to 10 Minutes on Brand. I'm Will Straughn, partner and chief growth officer here at Focus Lab. And on this latest installment, I had the pleasure of talking to Bill Kenney, Focus Lab's CEO and co-founder, about brand mascots and why or why not they're not as dominant in the B2B space as they are with B2C companies. And maybe if one day they will be. Again, if you have any topic or questions that you'd like us to answer in a future 10 Minutes on Brand, make sure you leave us a comment, and I hope you enjoy. All right, Bill. So I've got a pretty interesting topic today. You have no idea what I plan to ask you about, which
Nothing.
is exactly how I like it. But I was having a really interesting conversation with a friend this week, and it was all around the topic of brand mascots. And he said, it's clear that mascots work for B2C companies because you see them everywhere, right? Like you go down the aisle at the grocery store, you watch commercials on TV. B2C companies are leaning into mascots. So clearly they work. Why do you think mascots aren't as common in B2B companies? Do you have any initial thoughts or takes on that?
Man, it's a very interesting question that I was not prepared for. And what is even more interesting is we pseudo talked about this in a call this morning with a prospective client.
Oh, really?
So I'm just going to back up here for a second and say, first of all, mascots bring value. This is basically what we got to in the call today, because a big part of the value that we want to help this prospective client with is trust. In the industry that they're in, we need to build trust within the brand. They are a trustworthy company, but that needs to be even more clear because the industry can be shady or trustworthy. So we need to position them more trustworthy.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways to do that. What we came to in the call this morning was some type of face for the organization, call it a mascot, call it a big personality, whatever, is a way to build trust. It's a way to align to a company, to say, I actually align to that person's values, how they speak, their humor, how they dress. Therefore, I actually like that brand. That happens sometimes at a CEO level. Steve Jobs would be maybe an example of that.
Okay.
Richard Branson, blah, blah, blah. But I think that also happens if you try to distill down to like what value does a mascot bring? An illustrated mascot now. It is still some of that. It's something you can identify to that is not just chicken wings, right? It's like, you need the Colonel Sanders, like you need the guy that has his own personality. That's like a story. And it's not just, I love chicken wings. There's like more than that. There's more to sink your teeth into, no pun intended. So I think it's to answer your question now, I think it is easier in a B2C world to say this is a consumer facing product. It's direct line to the consumer, and therefore a mascot really going to have a direct line to that person. Where B2B, unfortunately, still falls into that world of like, well, business to business doesn't need that. It's like, well, yeah, they do, because they're still selling to people too. At the end of the line, there's still a person. There's a human being.
Yeah.
So I think it just hasn't caught up to the fact that it would be really valuable in that world. Here's the kicker, though. All it takes is a big dog in the B2B world to do that and show that that's a path to success. Everybody else falls in line, right? Okay. So if Salesforce all of a sudden says, hey, we still have our main brand. Oh, so who is their mascot?
Salesforce does there. So I was trying to think of big B2B brands that do have mascots, and Salesforce does have one. So
it's not Salesforce front and center. What is it?
So they've got their mascot Astro, which I think you mainly see at a lot of their conferences and more behind the scenes stuff. But Salesforce, out of all the B2B brands that I could think of, some of the ones that were coming to the top were Salesforce has one, which is Astro. GitHub has their Octocat, which is big in like the dev space, right? And really MailChimp, they're getting more into B2B with Freddy. And then I think Hootsuite has their Owl. But really with B2B, those are the only ones that I could really think of. But when you start thinking of like B2C companies, the list is about a mile long.
Yes.
But
it's just further along in that way. But I don't think that the value offering is different. That's all that to say too, that like a mascot is not helpful for every brand either. I think B2B is just kind of like the laggard in this mascot.
Yeah, I
world.
mean, you and I know B2B companies are typically more averse to risk, right? So you
Yeah.
could see trying to create a mascot as somewhat risky because if a brand isn't committed to a branded decision, it's not going to work. So
Yep.
maybe there's more nuances to get buy-in at a B2B company to support that. But I like what you were saying. When I think of mascots, it actually helps bring more humanity to a brand that might not
Yes,
have it,
exactly. Right.
which you and I know that's one of the biggest hurdles to get over with a B2B brand is how do we break out of gimmicks and jargon and how do we inject more humanity? So maybe the next 20 years is somewhat bright for B2B mascots and it's just sitting there. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Again, to my
really got
point,
me
like
thinking.
if the Salesforce mascot became more front and center, maybe not as much internal or conference based, and it became a real differentiator for them, you'd see all these other B2B companies, every single one going like, "Oh my god, we need a mascot. Oh my god, we need a mascot." In the same way that everybody started to say,
Mhm.
"We need clean typefaces." And we need better looking websites, right? Like everybody falls in line. And that's not to
Yeah,
say that's right or wrong, but I think that just hasn't happened yet in the B2B space. It will
sure.
take some of the big movers
Yeah.
to start thinking that way. And I would also say that B2B, to no fault of its own, historically has also been very like corporate and enterprise, which is
Well,
going to
that's
take
what my friend
longer to,
said.
yeah,
He
it's going to
said
take
maybe
longer to come
mascots aren't
around.
enterprise. But when I think of some of the biggest companies in the world, Disney is always in my top 5. And you can't not think of Disney without Mickey Mouse. And I'm like,
Right.
how many organizations are dying to work with the Disney chain at some point? If it's through Disney Parks, Disney streaming, Disney movies, Disney merchandising, like that's an enterprise company that has a mascot that's up front and center. And it's not stopping anyone from wanting to do business with them.
Correct. I think people confuse mascots for silly, gimmicky cartoon characters. It doesn't have to be that. Again, it can be a person. It could be a very serious face, and a person is the actual mascot,
Yeah.
down to an illustrated version of a octopus cat, which has worked really well for GitHub. It's just another tool in the tool belt of a brand.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can have too many. If you don't execute it well, you have too many things going on. So nobody knows what to align to. It's just a mess of a bunch of things. But if you do it well, it's another really powerful tool. So now you have hammers, you have
Mm-hmm.
saws, you have screwdrivers, and
Yeah. Well,
the mascot can become another really powerful tool. And I would say,
yeah.
to
So
your point, GitHub is a pretty damn good
pretty
example.
good one because the
Yeah,
the GitHub community loves that mascot, right? They loves
exactly.
stickers, swag, patches, pins, like everything.
Yes. I'm
So
not even in the GitHub community, and I have had an epic Octocat Stormtrooper sticker on my laptop as a non-developer with no GitHub account and nothing. But like that's still, it's like, well, that's pretty rad, and that's what they want, right? So
mhm.
that's what their
So
mascot is doing, as opposed to maybe other mascots do something different. They help tell more of the brand story and things like that.
yeah. So all right. So we talked that it adds humanity. All the other things that you said adds excitement because you saw that sticker and you want it. So it added an excited
Yeah,
brand impression, and then
yeah,
memorable. You remembered it, which
absolutely.
is what brands die for. They die to be more connected on the human level. They love to be memorable, and if it's a brand that you can get excited about, which GitHub and I mean, I have stuff with Mickey Mouse on it, and I'm a bearded, tattooed man in my mid-30s. Like I don't care. Like I get when I put on my Mickey Mouse shirt, I'm like, heck yeah, man, I love this thing.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. It got me really. It was a really interesting conversation. It's so funny that you had the same conversation because I don't know. It got my mind was just spinning, saying that maybe this is a really untapped potential for the next couple of decades, specifically for B2B brands. That competition is only going to get greater, and
yeah.
maybe some B2B brands need to be a little bit bold, step out of their comfort zone, and maybe really ask themselves, like, is there an opportunity to have a mascot? But you got to be smart, right? We would always
Correct.
tell any
Has
of
to
our
be done
clients
well.
be smart, be intentional, be committed. Because if you're not, it's going to fail. And then that's a huge waste of money. But I love it.
I
I
think
love your take
Mailchimp
on
is
this.
another great example. They have
Yeah.
not taken the foot off the gas pedal on Freddie, their mascot. They've redrawn him. They've polished him over time, but like he is definitely a big piece of their brand. He's a personality.
Yeah. They
Um,
made him real. Like we've got the little
yes,
figurines. That's the thing. It's like,
yeah,
it gives you so many other opportunities that a typical B2B brand wouldn't have, right? most B2B brands don't have the ability to make a little figurine that people are going to be standing in line for at the
Right.
conference.
Limited edition
Right?
versions of it and stuff like that. Yes, that's where you start to get beyond the features
Mm-hmm.
and all of those things. You're not selling and you're not enticing people anymore with just the features. Like, what else is going to have of any interest to somebody about your brand? It's like, that's pretty cool. I would go stand in a MailChimp line for a limited edition Freddy mystery box.
100%. Well, and the thing is with B2B brands, it's like, it's important to get to the decision makers, right? So when you look at these B2B companies, there's always a decision maker at these enterprise companies, but to have the influence of the people that are going to use the product is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
If you have, engineers and writers and designers and marketers that are really excited about a brand and you're the ultimate decision maker at a B2B company, you better believe you're going to kind of give that company a little bit of attention to say, like, maybe I will consider that company, because all of my employees are like obsessed with it. They're wearing the shirts, like they got stickers on
Yeah.
their laptops. Like these leaders at these B2B companies, their ears are open, right? They don't want to bring in a technology product that their team doesn't get excited about. They want to bring something in that gets embraced, and maybe a mascot is a way to not only reach the decision makers, but the people that are hands-on with products. But yeah, it got, my wheels were turning the other night, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to actually ask Bill about this, because I'm curious about your take.
It's a cool combo. It'll be
Yeah,
interesting
man.
to see how that evolves over the next 10 years and who leans in and who doesn't.
Yeah, we'll watch this video 10 years from now and see how right or wrong we were.
Well, the
All right,
thing
man.
is, like, I don't even know if you can be right or wrong. There's value there. It's just if the right company adopts it and if they execute on it well, I
Very
would
true.
feel like there is no wrong there. It is only right.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks, Bill. This is another episode of 10 Minutes on Brand. We'll see you next time.
Do it again. Ciao.
All right. Cheers.